Welcome back! Last week, Chris and Jen uncovered how adversity alters the brain, but a bigger question remains. How do we actually move forward without letting hard times steal our future joy? Real resilience isn't about standing untouched or romanticizing trauma. It's about taking small, intentional steps towards healing and self-efficacy. Today, Chris and Jen unpack 5 practical strategies to build your resilience muscle, redefine the role of community in recovery, and reveal why true strength might look very different than you think. Let's get into it.
And the ability to look at that and be able to pull that out of like your childhood and say like, this is something back then that had such a big impact, and today it still does, and it has helped influence and is a place that you go back to whenever you need that level of encouragement and inspiration. It's just such a beautiful thing. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about Disney before, but
you could pick apart some of those older stories for a lot of, different reasons. But I think when you look at Cinderella, she was in this horribly traumatic situation. And yet, she was able to find happiness and find a way out. And you think about Snow White, also terrible situation, by the way, right? And yet she lived this happy life. And, I think all of these princess stories, this is how it goes, right? And so the model here is even if things are hard, you can find happiness. And I think a lot of times that beautiful messaging gets lost because we focus on some of the other things that, tend to not hold over time.
Didn't age well.
They don't age well.
Women always needed a Prince Charming to come in and save them.
Oh, right. Well, there is Mulan, who is her own rescue. But,
true.
I do think you could either pick it apart or you could find the beauty in it. And I think in these scenarios, this is definitely something that I hold close because I know that, I can navigate my way through because, these characters that came before me, they did, right, even though they're fictional, right?
But I mean, that's when we talk about ordinary magic, one of the areas is a community that you are part of, you connect with. And you and I are community. We have a relationship, we have a friendship, and whenever we are having those discussions and you draw from that to encourage, to help create a perspective for me. And I think that's what's important. When you have other people and you're hearing how they see things and, I had never thought about it that way before. As we've said before, be mindful of how much you share and who you allow to be that inner circle. But I think that's why it is important to have a good group of friends that you can build that community with.
Yeah. And, resilience is not an individual achievement. It's sometimes the most resilient thing that you can do is let somebody help you.
Yeah.
And so just erase this mental model of resilience means powering through, because sometimes resilience means letting somebody help you, not just asking for help, but really letting them help you. And, for those that have worked so hard on being strong enough, that can be really hard and very scary. So, be brave.
I know you haven't seen this movie that I'm about to reference, and you will not, but so the movie V for Vendetta, based on a graphic comic, I'm thinking of what V did for Evie and kind of put her through. It was very traumatizing, but I'm beginning to now think he freed her mind. He showed her we do have authority, even whenever people are trying to tell us how we should live, when people are trying to create a system or a process that is meant to suppress us. And I've always looked at this movie from a larger what's it saying politically, but now I'm almost thinking I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. But it's almost the mind is ours. No one can tell us what we can or cannot do.
Well, they can tell us, but it's our choice.
They can, correct.
It's our choice.
Yes.
To either listen or take it back.
Yeah.
I can't, you're right. I can't talk about this movie with you because I haven't seen it. I kind of barely know what it's about. Though you and Ace can have great discussion about it because this is a movie that I know he could absolutely talk about and has in the past. But I would say here, I think it's really important that we not romanticize trauma. And I think this is something that happens a lot, especially as we think about the connection to resilience. So I want to be very clear because I feel incredibly strongly about this. Trauma is not a gift. Suffering is not required for growth. You do not have to suffer in order to grow. Someone struggling after trauma is not weak. And someone who thrives after trauma is not proof that the trauma was not harmful. It's that people respond differently to adversity. And you should never turn people going through terrible things into terrible things make people stronger, or the phrase that people love to say, and I absolutely despise, everything happens for a reason. Because to me, what everything happens for a reason means is that your trauma was required for you to get to where you are. And that is absolutely not true. And I think it makes people feel really unseen and kind of diminished, and like their value is not as worthwhile because they were supposed to have just gone through that. Or, like I even know there were people who were incredibly well-meaning when I think about our house fire, who were just trying to get to that silver lining of, oh, but look, you have a new house now. And like, that made me so angry because I was like, I didn't want a new house. I had the house I wanted. I didn't want to go through that horribly traumatic experience. Because it was hard. And it took a lot from myself, a lot from my family, a lot from the people around us to get through. And so you can't just paint. While I do believe that it is important to find gratitude in all the things around us, there's a very different that is very different from painting, but look at what you got out of it. So it was worthwhile or worth it. Because, you can grow and you can have good things without having to go through hard things.
Yeah. And I will say that I do believe as a society, we feel like we always have to have some type of placation. That may not be the right word, but like you talking about your house fire, like, oh, well, at least you got a new house out. Like that's not it. Don't say that. That is not a necessity. Like find something else. Like ask a question, offer support. And look, not everyone does great in awkward times or awkward conversations. Like I would say if you're not sure what to say nothing.
Yeah. Or just like say, wow, that must be really hard. Like I see you. Like, people often are not looking for you to fix their problem. They're just looking for you to comfort them.
I am going to offer an unpopular opinion, not for you. I think you'll appreciate. Okay. I think you'll be surprised that I'm offering this up. I think as we have grown up, at least in the times that we did, there's a lot put on people, individuals that like seep into you, whether it's from a religion, whether it's from a teaching, whether it's from whatever. And those things we somehow adopt into our vernacular and it just sticks with us. Yeah. And so whenever we get to moments like these, sometimes the thing that you shouldn't say is what comes out of your mouth. And
yeah. And like, I think we can learn from that because I certainly have said things to help try and placate or comfort, and they were not the right things to say. but I do think like this is one thing I feel incredibly strongly about. And I think most people don't see it the way that many people don't see it the way that I see it. But like anytime somebody says, well, everything happens for a reason, like it's just pierces something open inside of me because you do not have to go through hard things in order to get to a good place. And your struggle is not a worthwhile, like cost of something better. I think it just invalidates the pain. And like that's a way to shove something down to then be able to like, move past it, but it just stays down, shoved down in this hurt place. And so, I get that people may see things differently than I do, but very much that is my strong thought and opinion on this. So please don't say to me everything happens for a reason.
Okay, I will take that out of my immediate responses whenever. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't say that. Okay, but I do want us to talk a little bit about stressful situations, because there isn't, like we said, there's no way to remove these things from our lives. It is part of the human condition of living. Stress is always amongst us. So some manageable, controllable challenges can actually help us develop some confidence and some coping capacity.
It's like a vaccine.
Yes, it is referred to as the mental vaccine, a stress inoculation.
Okay, like you just get a little bit of the virus, the stress virus injected, the harmless kind, and
Correct.
It helps build your immunity.
Yes. So it turns into this like manageable and controllable. And it's not a let's throw ourselves into chaos and see what happens, because that rarely works out well for anyone.
Not advisable. So don't just go like put yourself in the middle of very big stress situations on purpose.
Correct.
Okay.
Be mindful.
Right.
Be mindful about what you're doing.
Okay. All right.
So think of this as like small challenges, small things that you can easily tackle, that you can work through, and that way it moves you into this area of successful experiences. So now you've gone through this tough time, you have now you've worked through it, whatever it may have been, and you are now, okay, I'm on the other side of this. I did it. I'm building this skill. And that helps build a level of confidence.
I love that.
And it's rarely do you do something one time and become an expert.
You have to do it like to get that flu vaccine every season.
That's right. It just doesn't stick with you for forever.
The stress vaccine, you got to keep getting it. So like having a difficult conversation, even though you don't want to, a little bit of stress. But if you prepare yourself, you can do it. It's hard. You made it through it. You've taught yourself, I did not die. Trying something that you're bad at. I love to try things I'm bad at and then never go back to it again.
I'm one of those that believe if I buy everything for the craft at the beginning, like I'm going to be great at it.
Yeah.
I have like at least 3 boxes full of things that would beg to differ.
Okay. So I just have to tell a story here. I mentioned my 22nd anniversary, of which copper is the traditional and modern gift.
Right.
And I thought, what can I do to do something a little special and call back to copper? I know my husband loves a good card. And so I thought, I'll make a card. And I'm going to fashion a heart out of copper wire on said card. For him. So I went to the craft store and I bought copper wire, and I found the wire after some digging, and I chose a gauge, which, there was a lot of choices involved here. And I actually ran into this lovely woman in the store who was looking for something, and we had a conversation about it, and she clearly is an artist, and she was talked about what she was looking for. I was talking about what I was looking for. And, I mentioned what I was doing. And I was like, I'm going to fashion this heart out of this copper wire. And I don't know how it's going to work out because, it's probably not. And she was like, you're just going to do it. And it's going to be fine. Like, you've got this. You can do this. And also,
spoken like a true artist.
Yeah, it's also, she was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, most of the time you see hearts in there, like swoopy and whatever. Now, I will tell you,
true artist.
The more I tried to get this heart to be perfect, the less it was. But my husband does treasure it. So it made it to a place of honor. I will not be starting a make your own cards business.
I just love that you were so ambitious in your first, copper fashioning endeavor.
Yes, and then I promptly gave away the rest of the copper wire to someone that makes jewelry that could use it because I said to myself, this was the first and last time I'm going to try and fashion things out of copper wire.
All right, so you found a new home for it.
Lean into your strengths. But I did it. So there was my story. I don't know how that fully relates, but.
Well, it goes into this idea that you had a small challenge that you tried and you pushed through.
And I had positive encouragement, little chance encounter from a stranger in the store. And that moment just stuck with me and still warms my heart when I think about it.
Exactly. But what you're trying to actually build here is a level of comfortability.
Yes.
So that way, whenever these bigger challenges come up, so if you did want to start your own card making company, you would have had all of that experience.
Or I can just try something I've never done before and know that if it fails, it won't be a total screw up. It's fine.
A hobby can just be a hobby.
Traveling alone, for me, this is, I think, this really resonates. Like the first time that I had to travel alone, and I grew up not going on planes and stuff. So for work, I was terrified. And I sat next to somebody who traveled all of the time, and was very nice and kind and helped me, make it through the storm that we were flying through without, being a mess. And I don't even know. I don't know his name. I don't know, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup, which is typical for me. I don't tend to remember those kinds of things. But I do remember how supportive and genuine he was as I was terrified in that turbulence on the plane and thought we were going to fall out of the sky and die. And just those little moments of people being kind can help build this resilience of, I did this. We were okay. Or I recall, I had to travel to another country for the first time for work, and I did it, and I was terrified. And then I came back and was like, Ace, get your passport. We're going to Ireland because, I've gone out of the country, and guess what? I came back. I did it. So I think that's a great one. Speaking in front of people.
Well, that's a big one.
The more you do it, you may not love it. This podcast, recall how physically ill I was the first time we recorded. And yet the more you just keep doing it and you go, you know what? Nothing horrible has happened.
Correct.
So.
And this is our brains in the process of learning and doing those callbacks and creating those our brains have changed in a good way. You get through something and you are changed and you become more comfortable and all of a sudden, I'm familiar with having those butterflies in my stomach. So they may not always go away whenever you are going to speak in front of a group of people. But it's now something it's your body's reaction, and I'm expecting this. And you know what? I'm going to step up to that podium, to that microphone, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think, the other thing about resilience, part of what I loved in kind of some of the research that I had sent over was this visual of the ball that bounces down and you bounce back up and you don't ever quite go down as far. Building resilience over time, like building that muscle, changes your baseline. So, doing this podcast and recording and sharing thoughts, being vulnerable, which is something that I have long struggled with for a number of reasons. And I don't know. It's hard to think of a way to be more vulnerable than what this journey we decided to go on. So crazy. But I'm so grateful for it, because while I was terrified to a point that I literally became physically ill over it, forcing myself to do it and having you to do it with. So resilience is a team sport.
That's right.
And having Ace to do it with, and like all of this support, I couldn't have put myself in anybody else's hands from a publishing standpoint. But knowing that he is very thoughtful and careful about, how we, sometimes there are some shorts out there that, I definitely have been edited into something hilarious, but there's a line of knowing what's like respectful versus like giving somebody the power to take your words and potentially turn them into something that they weren't. Like I couldn't do that with anybody else. And so you guys are just so, I'm so appreciative of being able to do this with you in a safe way. So again, like don't throw yourself into chaos and see what happens. Manageable and controllable,
That's
but with people that you trust. But doing something that was so wildly uncomfortable to the point of physical illness, and continuing to do it. And it took months. I mean, I think even like that first year mark, I feel like I was still going, I feel like still scared, uncomfortable, stressed. And it just has become so much easier to be more natural in sharing like true thoughts and feelings and, all of that.
Well, you are on the journey, right? Like
Yeah.
you are going through, like if you think about it as you are going through and collecting evidence that shows I can do this and I will be okay.
Yeah.
I can do this and feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to be okay.
Even if what we publish isn't perfect, the world's not going to fall down and people aren't going to laugh. Or if they do, like, it's okay.
We're okay with that.
Yeah, or we made them laugh, and that's a good thing. But like, this thought of, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? I put something out there that wasn't the best possible work that I could do because I haven't built my skill yet. Like it's okay because whatever people think, like that's not who it's for.
Right, and if you wait for perfection, it's never going to happen. Like that is unobtainable, and I think we've talked about that before.
So every time your brain learns that was uncomfortable and I survived it, that is neuroplasticity in action. Right.
Exactly.
There.
So there is a secret weapon that I loved that was pulled out of all of this because it is something that you are a big proponent for.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk about it?
Sure. So self-efficacy, also known as agency. This is, I believe I can influence what happens next. So of course I love this because I hate being out of control. So the concept that I have some kind of influence, different than control. I cannot control outcomes. I know that. But I certainly can influence them. Like, of course, I'm going to love that because that feels comfortable for me. So I'm well aware that, there's a part of this belief that's a little bit self-serving, but truly, like you do have the ability to influence what happens next. You are not at the mercy of like somebody else or some, all-powerful something making every choice about what happens next, or that's not how it works.
And I think the way that you've mentioned this before is it's like not magical thinking, and I had never really thought about it that way until you said that, and I was like, wow. And that's kind of what we're raised on, if we're being honest. Well, we are kind of raised on magical thinking.
Tip from my therapist, that's what he likes to call it, magical thinking. So this is the advice I paid for. I'm giving you for free. There's no like puppeteer up there controlling all of the outcomes. That whatever your religious belief is, that is not how it works. You have the ability to influence what happens next. You may not have the ability to control outcomes, but you can influence what happens next. This is not everything is going to work out. Instead, it's whatever happens, I believe I can figure out something to do. And this is also like when we talked about hope in that episode about hope and resilience, I think are not the same thing at all, but hope and resilience are very much like in concert, in connection. They correlate. But hope is that belief that whatever happens next, I can figure out what to do. Like I can navigate my way. And so, we do talk a lot about agency.
We do. And I think one of the great things about it is sometimes you need that other person or other people. You need that community to help get you there, because it's not about like, I can't do this. Like we see an obstacle and we can come up with a million reasons why we can't, shouldn't, wouldn't, all of the things. But then I just think back to kind of the first time you and I worked together and you were like, I think you actually can do this. Like, I think you actually do have the ability. And we talked about it and you offered sound advice, and it's like, sometimes you need people who know you and believe in you to help you, like, even just get started yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as like you talk about me being that for you, you are that for me too. Like it's not like you got to find somebody that like has this ability if you don't. Sometimes it's a closeness. Like we talked about this before. One of the ways to figure out how to solve a problem is to like get some distance from it. And sometimes getting that distance is like, it's too in my face. So I need somebody that I trust to tell me from their perspective. And so that certainly has been you for me many a time. There are still probably a couple of things that, if I really am honest with myself, I have not yet bought into the belief that I have the ability to influence them. And so that's probably the work to do if I want to see a change, is to start giving myself a different view on that. And sometimes I think it's more comfortable to believe we can't make those changes, because like, what if I try and I fail? What if I try and I'm successful, but it's really uncomfortable? I think that's an interesting thing to maybe like go journal on. So maybe think about that for yourself. Like, what are some of those things that you've been telling yourself you just can't change or fix or get around, and maybe start asking yourself some of those questions about why you believe that.
Yeah. And I love that. I mean, I think that's a great transition into like ways we can actually put this stuff into practice.
Yeah, we have five things that you
love
can
a good
do.
List.
Love a good list. Top 5. Here's a top 5 list of 5 things that you can do to build more resilience. If resilience sounds like something you want more of, here's how you can strengthen the muscle. 1 is regulate. So before you solve the problem, you regulate yourself. At 4 a.m., when I was thinking, oh my gosh, have I done something horrible? I've damaged this relationship. This ruins not only one of my closest friendships, but the podcast, like all of the things I'm like, and not only that, but like, I care so deeply about you. Like, have I hurt you? And how do I repair that? That was 4 a.m. me. I didn't show up quite like that when I actually asked you about it. I did decide that I wasn't going to let it linger because it was just too important. But one, how you are is too important. And then making sure that I have not done something that I need to atone for, also important. But the 4 a.m. me was not the me that needed to text you about that. And so regulate.
Regulate.
You regulate through doing things like sleeping, breathing. Okay, like not breathing like, like deep breathing,
Right.
taking breaths.
To be clear, you should always be breathing.
Yeah, not like the life, like not the kind of breathing, the normal breathing, but like the breathing, like the taking a deep breath, which returns more oxygen to the brain, as we have talked about in the past. Movement, go for a walk, get some time outside, connect with nature. This is one thing my therapist likes to talk about all the time. You regulate through a connection with nature, which can also be co-working with your pet next to you if you have one. Put a plant on your desk. I can't keep plants alive. So, but like working with nature doesn't just mean going and getting a cabin out in the middle of a forest. Like it can mean many things.
Movement has actually a lot more of the scientific power than I think.
Yeah.
For all of the advice we've given since this season started, and movement seems to always be one of them. There's actual science that shows that exercise supports our brain health and neuroplasticity and influences this BDNF, the brain derived neurotrophic factor, and think of this as like Miracle Grow for your brain.
Well, yeah, this is number 2. Move is number 2.
Move. Oh,
yeah.
You said move.
Well, I said movement. Like that was like how you regulate, like
I'm
how
sorry,
you're
I jumped
regulating.
ahead.
Yeah, no, but that's good. That's good. You're like moving us on. So you've regulated. That's one way. Take your pause, reduce your stimulation, step back, regulate yourself. First pause. What was it? Pause, plan?
Pause, plan, act.
No,
feel.
pause, feel, plan, act. Pause, feel, plan, act. Regulate yourself. So take a pause. Then move, as you were talking about.
Yes, so actually getting out and moving, it actually is a protein that helps your brain cells grow, it helps them survive, and it makes those new connections. So we talked about neuroplasticity. This is an important piece to that. This is actually a really important thing. So you may not have the, best workout clothes, or, if you're a Lululemon lover, you may not have the most recent trendy piece, but don't let that stop you. Get out there, like go for a walk. If you enjoy dancing, turn on some music and start dancing. Maybe you don't even need music. You do you. There are people
I dance to the music in my head. Okay.
Exactly. And then people who garden or really enjoy taking care of their house plants. If you're a biker, actually they've shown that stretching is also a good way of doing that, and actually is really good for your muscles as well. If you have kids, like go do something fun that takes them outside. Go to the park. Go throw a ball. Like get out. Go do stuff. My dog is not perfect for taking on a walk. He's not really that into it, but some dogs really like walking. And so if you have one of those walking dogs, then take your dog for a walk. Ollie's like, I just want to go in front of our building, and that's as far as I want to go.
This was enough. This was enough.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Ollie's the kind of dog that you put in a stroller and walk.
He would be on board with that.
Yeah,
1,000%.
We're gonna get you one of those. So you don't have to be a gym junkie to practice moving, but that is the second way that you can build more resilience, is to move. It does like add a protein that helps your brain cells grow, survive, and make connections. So, so interesting that what you're doing on the outside is like actually putting Miracle Grow, like you said, on your brain. It's crazy. Okay, so the third one is reframe. We've talked about this before, right?
Yeah. Not that toxic positivity. Not that magical thinking.
Nope. It's not everything happens for a reason. Instead, it's what else could be true. And I remember we had a boss once that taught me this game, the game of, okay, yeah, that might happen, but what else could be true? And so I love to play this game. I talk to a lot of people about this game. I'm like, okay, so let's play a game. Maybe that is true, but what else could be true? This is a resilience builder. So if you're feeling like I failed, what else could be true? You could also say, well, that just didn't work, but I could try again. I'm terrible at this. Or
maybe
I'm inexperienced at this, right? Like we've talked about.
Like your copper card making.
Okay, well, Yes. I'm very inexperienced at it, but I don't know if I care enough to put enough effort into becoming experienced.
Good
That's the
differentiation.
differentiator. I might have to put more effort than other people who are naturally gifted. So, do I believe I could become great at it if I got fanatical about putting a bunch of time into it? Yes. Would I get bored well before then? Yes. Yes.
Know thyself.
Yes. But we have talked about this in past episodes as well, like where, okay, just because you start somewhere doesn't mean that you have to wait to own the title until you've reached master. Like there's an apprenticeship for a reason. And so thinking about the world more in that way. Instead of saying, my life is falling apart, what else could you say, Chris?
This is just really a tough time right now. Maybe I've never experienced this before and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It's a chapter. This chapter may not be the best chapter. Maybe an uncertain chapter may not be my favorite chapter, but there's a season for everything.
That's right. So the goal isn't about making something bad sound good. Like that's not what we're trying to do. And that's, we talked about being realistic about where we are in things and not just like pushing things down and ignoring them. So I think that's very important to understand. Really, the idea of this is to create more than one possible interpretation of what is happening or could be happening within your world.
Absolutely. Okay, number 4, connect.
Yeah, we've talked about this. This is so important. We are social creatures and we need to connect with one another. And I just don't think we can overemphasize this. Like resilience doesn't mean I can handle everything by myself. That is not what, being a strong, resilient person means. Sometimes it means I know who I can call to help me through this, or I'm
willing
right
to call them, which is sometimes the harder part.
Exactly.
So my question is, who are your people and are you letting them be your people?
Yeah.
Who are your people and are you letting them be your people?
And you have to be honest with them, right? That's why you have to feel a level of connection, a level of safety, because for people to really help, they have to understand what's happening.
Yeah. I often in this one feel like, well, I should be quote unquote resilient, the former definition that I was using. I should be strong enough to just always be peppy and I don't want to be a burden and all these things. And so even though I would not apply that to somebody else, it very much gets in the way of me asking for help. And let's be very clear, asking for help is vulnerable. And I don't like being vulnerable. So it's uncomfy. So who are your people? And are you letting them be your people?
Yep.
Do you trust them enough to let them be your people? Now, that also means you can't always be the one that is needing, in relationships, you can't always be the one that everything is about that is needing. It is like a seesaw, teeter-totter, people take turns. So I just want to set a boundary around that. But I do think that healthy relationships are ones where we meet each other where we're at. And I remember going through, speaking of being married for 22 years, I remember going through our premarital sessions together. And a very wise man told us, think of yourself like 2 pizzas or pieces like pies, and they each have a piece cut out. And you just can't be in that place where both of you have the cutout pieces overlapping. That's where you got to choose whose moment it gets to be. And it was such a good image that stuck with me. So I tease Ace and say only one of us can be sick at a time. That's the marriage contract, even though that's not physically how science and germs work.
Yeah. Well, the way that I heard it talked about relationships is everyone likes to say, it's a 50-50 partnership. And it's no, it's because if one of you is not able to do your 50, the other has to be able to pick it up. And I don't know. I think to me, like, it's such an important example of how we love to talk about partnerships and this like equal. You do so much, I do so much. We bring it together, and it's 100%. No, you have to give it your all, because there are days when the other is not going to be able to do it, whether it be because of work, whether it be because of illness, whether, whatever the thing may be. You got to, but then you also have to be mindful about you can't always be the partner who is lacking. There has to be some give and take here.
Yeah. I was looking for the book, and I can't find it, but I was listening to an episode of Oprah Super Soul podcast, which I love. And she had somebody on, and I think her name was Bridget, and I cannot remember her last name. And she had a book. I think maybe the book was called The Happiness Project, something similar to that, if that's not it. And one of the things that she talked about in this search for happiness was the understanding that love does not keep score. And she talked about how she was finding herself in her relationship with her husband saying, okay, well, this was your turn and now it's my turn. Well, you did this and now I get to do this. And she was like keeping this like mental tally or score. And she was like, love does not actually keep score. This isn't how love works. Love is fully showing up for somebody, and it's also letting somebody fully show up for you, and understanding like where people are at on their capacity journey. But like you have both a responsibility and an obligation to your partner, or whoever you're in this whatever kind of relationship, like even if it's a friendship, to like not always be the one in only one role, like the needing role, right? You gotta play multiple roles. And I think that's something that's so interesting. Is not something that I ever like learned or was taught growing up. And so like thinking about this concept and digging into this, I thought, how do I become a better friend? How do I become a better partner? How do I become a better like other person in the relationship? And it is that balance, because for me, a part of what I believed is, well, I just need to push it all down so that I can show up and be the person that makes everybody feel better all the time, because then I'll be wanted. And that's not actually how it works.
Yeah. Maybe Gretchen Rubin, The
That's
Happiness
it.
Project.
That's it. That's the one. Bridget, Gretchen. I'm so sorry, Gretchen. But what you said really stuck with me.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, I think a lot of these things were not taught. Like, you figure it out as you're going along. You're living life. You're experiencing things. And like, it's why, I think I'm safe to say this, like why we are both strong supporters of therapy. Like, it's impossible for us to know everything. It's impossible for us to know how to get through every problem. Like, it's not realistic. And having other people there who know different support systems, who know different tools and resources that they can equip you with, it's not a sign of weakness. To me, it's saying like, I want to do better. I want to show up better. How can I be that person?
Absolutely. Okay, so number 5 is to find meaning. Finding meaning helps you build resilience. So ask, what matters enough to me that I'm willing to work through difficult things? So it can come from relationships, family, creativity, service, adventure, career, spirituality, learning, community, contribution. And meaning doesn't have to explain why something bad happened. It simply helps you decide, what do I want to do with what happened? So if you had something really terrible happen in your life, and it is like stealing the joy that you are lacking, stealing your ability to live that full, happy, get the things that you want, be, that person that you want to be. Sometimes what you need to do in order to build resilience is ground yourself in, what do I care about enough? What matters enough that pushing myself to do things that are hard will ground me in this is what I'm doing it for. And I think that's pretty good advice. Like, we all need to find, our purpose, or I say our purpose, like that's such a human condition, is to feel like we have to have a purpose, but maybe not your greater life's purpose, because sometimes life can just be, but like, you need to find sometimes a reason to make you do something, push you towards doing something, make yourself do something that is tough. And you can draw from all kinds of things. So I think that was an interesting perspective on one of the 5 practical things you can do to help build resilience, ground yourself in why it matters.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot here. So I love a good recap. So let me see what I got here. So first, I'm going to regulate. Before I try to solve the problem, I might need to actually calm my system down enough to actually think clearly, truly like spend time with what the question or what the problem may be.
Yes, this gives not just the amygdala the microphone, but
right.
passes
exactly.
it.
Passes it along.
The amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex.
Right. So then I want to do something that's going to potentially get me up and moving. And that does not mean I have to become a fitness influencer, because that's not the journey that I'm on. But simply walking, stretching, dancing, getting up, any movement counts. Just get your body moving.
Yeah. Yes.
You're wanting to connect with people. Resilience doesn't mean I can handle everything all by myself. I'm on this journey alone. It truly means I know who I can call, and I'm actually willing to pick up that phone and call them or text them or find a way to connect with that support system.
Yes.
And then this last one, the finding meaning. It's not necessarily figuring out why something terrible happened or trying to piece apart my life and how did I end up here, but it's more asking, what do I want to do with what happened? What matters enough to me that I'm willing to keep moving through this difficult problem, this difficult challenge, whatever it may be? How am I going to do that? Why am I doing this?
Remind yourself why it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe these aren't 5 ways to become like some superhuman, like unbreakable version of ourselves. That's not what we're trying to do.
That's not what resilience means.
Right.
It does not mean being unbreakable.
Right.
It doesn't.
Exactly. It's about giving ourselves that chance to feel, recover, adapt, and keep going, not letting it like stop your forward moment.
We're all about chasing happiness. That would be how else I might retitle our podcast.
I was just about to say, like, what a great way to call this. Chasing happiness.
We're all about chasing happiness. And so that's what resilience is really all about. And, so we've been taught that resilience means keep going, but sometimes it means stop, take a break, rest, leave, say no, ask for help, change your direction, go to therapy. Quit. Sometimes resilience means quit. Yeah. And this is very contradictory towards, what I think you and I both, like the culture that we both grew up in, because quitting meant like that you weren't resilient enough, you weren't strong enough to just muscle through. Sometimes quitting is the best thing you can do. It's okay to quit sometimes. Like, now, think about get
choices,
the whole band.
Choices.
Get the whole band together. So don't just use the amygdala. Use your prefrontal cortex and your hippocampus. But sometimes you do need to quit. Set a boundary. Oh my gosh, we spent a lot of time talking about boundaries, and boy, that just keeps coming back.
Sure does.
It's like my therapist knew what I needed to learn about. And admit that something's not working. That's what resilience means sometimes, all of these things. And yet none of these things are ways that I would describe resilience before we started diving into this.
Yeah, same. Not at all.
It's not persistence. Let us not confuse resilience and persistence. Those are 2 very different things. Sometimes resilience is adaptation. It is the willingness to stop and change direction. And like that, I feel like if I was just going to summarize our entire conversation, that would have been it right there.
Yeah.
So
maybe some takeaways?
Yeah.
Like some things to marinate on as you go through your week?
Yeah. Like here are some 5 questions I think that you could ask yourself if you are thinking about resilience and like how you can get more of it, or how you can lean into it more. Think about like what have you already survived that you don't give yourself enough credit for, because we tend to like kind of sometimes overlook, with that whole everyone gets a trophy sort of verbiage that became like kind of stinging, and so we don't give ourselves enough trophies sometimes.
We've swung that pendulum in the other direction.
Maybe you need to be the Oprah of trophies for yourself. You get a trophy. You get a trophy. When life gets hard, what is my automatic response? How am I, automatically responding to that? That's something that you could really dig in and start thinking about. Which resilience muscle do I need to strengthen? So thinking about those 5 kind of tactics that we talked about: regulate, move, reframe, connect, find meaning. Which one?
Spend some time.
You don't have to throw yourself at all of them. Pick one.
No. Yeah. Figure out who your people are.
Who are my people? And am I allowing myself to need them? Yeah, that's so important. And then what is one small, what is one small, uncomfortable thing that I could practice handling differently? So, 5 questions you can think about. If you're into journaling,
Yeah,
great
look,
journaling
I think these 5 questions are really just like that opportunity to truly audit where you are in this resiliency journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, because like we said, both of us walked into this with a very different understanding of what we thought resilience was. And we have learned so much in putting all of this together that it's even challenged us to think about like where we are on our resiliency journey. So truly think of it as an audit, write some things down, because when you write them down, your brain can process them better. And I just like, instead of asking ourselves if we're resilient, right? Let's actually ask, how do I adapt when life doesn't go according to plan?
Yeah.
Because
how do I get more resilient?
Right. It's not always going to go according to plan.
What?
I know. It's a shocker.
News. That's news to me. Maybe resilience doesn't look like standing there just untouched, being unbreakable. Maybe it looks like getting knocked sideways, and maybe it looks like crying in the parking lot, and maybe it looks like calling your person, eating something, sleeping, laughing about it 3 days later, figuring out what you need and taking the next step. Maybe that's what resilience looks like.
Yeah. Maybe it's not that bouncing back and moving forward. It's when we lean into this approach and allowing our brains to develop these new baselines and really allowing us to experience peace, joy, and happiness, even when the turbulence gets bumpy, because we already know that's going to happen. We cannot curate our own perfect world experiences.
Yeah. So we would love to know what you think about resilience. What do you think about this conversation? Is this like, were you already understanding resilience to be what we've described? Does this feel like it resonates? Would you add something, subtract something from what we've talked about? We would love to hear from you. Depending on what platform you're listening to, you can leave a comment. You can reach out to us via email at connect@chrisandjenitm.com. You can text us at 940-278-8129.
Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Our handle is Chris and Jen ITM. The ITM stands for in the morning. Please feel free to like, follow, subscribe, comment, all of those fun things. We're building a community, and we are on this journey of, like Jen said, chasing happiness, and we want others to come chase with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And until next time, be kind to yourself, to one another, and make it a great week.
Bye, everyone.